Hello and welcome. Today's video is about brushless gimbal kits that you can get off eBay. I ended up getting this kit here. One of the boards for one of the motors was loose, so I leave intact in the video how I had to overcome that and fix it. I got it from this seller here. He does give you options for different colors. I didn't really think about that, and I ended up with the purple one, which is alright anyways. Um, Basically comes with everything you need, except you do have to solder, so keep that in mind. This video I tried to make quick, but I failed like usual, so it went on for about 30 minutes. At the end of it, I show some software settings, but I'm not going to get into too much detail about the software. And yeah, so I'm going to jump into it now.
I've already opened up the board just to test it. I suggest just to quickly test this out, plug in your USB. Look in my description, I'll have a link to the software for it. It's probably best just to test it out just in case something is wrong right off the bat with the motherboard. Later in life I'll try to see if I can dump the firmware. It is a clone, so it can handle the newest firmware. But if I do get interested in this, I say that a lot in my videos, I'm sure there's a way to get newer firmware on it, because usually they're just looking for a high or low pin type thing, and if it's not there, then it either nukes the board. There used to be an old trick in the satellite scene. But anyways, continue on. So basically just take everything out and separate it all up. So I got this package here, 2 motors, accelerometer, a bunch of plastic screws, these rubber guys here, a strap, and some cables. Alright, and like usual, no instructions from the seller as well, so we'll get into it. So basically just open up this package, put everything to the side. Forgot to tell the seller which color I wanted, so I ended up with the purple one, which isn't too bad actually. It looks alright, I guess. Alright, I had to stop and pause this video a couple times. One of the boards actually came broken in the, not broken, but it's just not glued down. So I'm not sure if I'm going to get a refund for this or not. Also, all these holes aren't even see-through, so that kind of sucks. But anyways, I think the problem might be is it might go down too much and it might actually come close to shorting out on something. But anyways, we'll get into soldering. So it comes with a cable each for each motor. It doesn't matter which way you solder it on, so just make sure they're in a row. So there's going to be a pin and a butt to solder. That's going to be really hard to solder with it moving around, plus without having a hole. The wire's most likely going to fray. Alright, so that was kind of a struggle. I got both of the wires in. Alright, so now I'm going to start with the motors. So I guess each motor came with a bunch of screws. So just open up the bag, and then, yeah. You gotta be really careful nothing shorts out. That's why I'm really worried about the board that's all loose actually. That one might actually end up shorting out on me. Don't screw in the first one all the way until you get the rest lined up obviously. But I'm sure you guys can figure that part out. And this one's already screwed up. Yeah, one of the screws that came with it was screwed up. That's one. Just Guy's probably gonna end up shorting on me. Wow. I don't know. Right, that guy will definitely short out. So I'm gonna have to figure out some way to glue this guy into place. So that's just not gonna work. I mean, I could put a piece of tape. Probably be the best option. It'll end up shorting out on itself too. See, I want to use hot glue, but I think the hot glue might just get too hot and melt, and it'll end up jamming up this motor. I'll try crazy glue first, I guess. I have no choice to do it. There's always something with these guys. So maybe gotta be really careful of those wires in there. So obviously that didn't work. Wow. Not having any luck. I know I can pop that off, but I've always had problems separating the two. I don't want to screw up this motor too much. I think that's the best I'm going to be able to do. Alright, so I'll use one of these. Maybe the glue will stick to that. So I'll just let that dry for a couple of seconds. I'm going to end up cutting it off. Alright, so the glue seems to hold. Hopefully. See if I can cut that somehow without ripping it back off. I don't know if these nail clippers are going to get close enough. If they're even strong enough. I mean, I could order new ones right away, but I hate waiting 3 weeks. It's always waiting with these guys. I think I'm going to put another piece up in there too, just in case, just to stop it. But don't push too, if you get the same problem as mine, don't go in too far, because there's little teeny wires. So I'm just going to go like right there. It seems to hold. Cut that straight. Nothing like fixing something brand new. Alright, back again. Yeah, it's a shame. None of my videos ever go really smooth. Probably gonna make the plastic come off this time. Yeah, it's way up there still. Or at least it's not shorting out on anything. Alright, enough of me talking again. So you're left with 3 screws from the other motor. Open the last pack here. Yeah, I really apologize if this video doesn't come together. But again, I guess I might not upload it. We'll see. We'll see how it goes. If you run into an error this soon into a build, hopefully the rest goes smooth. Alright, so after you have the screws on the bottom and the wires soldered up, if you wired it the same way as me with the white line cable on the right side, and if you stretch out this cable flat with the copper facing up, it should plug in the board the same way as I'm doing it. Otherwise it doesn't matter because you can switch it in the software. There's just some more steps involved with that. Moving along, you have these 2 pieces here, a smaller one and a bigger one. I just put one on each motor. And you'll most likely want to get some Loctite or something. So you put it all together, make sure it works without shaking too much and stuff. And if it works, you might want to take it all back apart again and throw some Loctite on all the screws. That's up to you guys. So the one with the bigger one here is going to be your motor 1 and this will be your motor 2. This is the one that's going to have the camera mounted on it. So take this piece here with the camera mount. And you'll have 2 of these pieces. So just take one of them. And with it facing, there's this side here, like this. So screw it on this way. Okay. So then this guy gets hooked up like this. And your motor ones came with 3 small block screws. So after you have this part on, just turn it around and make sure you can turn it without hearing any click sounds. If not, you're going to have to loosen these 3 screws here just a little bit until you don't hear any rubbing, because I think they probably gave the wrong screws. Alright, so that's good. This guy here. Alright, so make sure it spins nice. It does. So then this guy here now gets attached here. So that's what I mean by steps. Like, it might be easier for you to first put this one on here first. Alright, so just spin the motors around until you get the camera mount like this. So the one motor will be on the right side and this guy will be up like this. So it's almost ready to be mounted, but I suggest for the next step is to prep the board. Here's the motherboard here. I just put this kind of connection on it for now just to test it. So there's a positive and negative. This is where you're going to want to wire your wires up for the CX20 or whatever kind of unit you're going to plug it into. I also suggest putting some tape just on this guy here. Shouldn't have to, but it seems like it's a guessing game too with these guys here. So the one for the bottom has 2 extra holes here and a flat piece here. So this would be your bottom and the board would sit on top like this. So it came with a bunch of plastic stuff. So to screw these guys all in. It seems like these aren't really high enough either for the board. That's why I suggest putting tape on it. If it happens to touch the motherboard, the top part, it's actually kind of defeating the point of the absorbers after. Alright, so this would be the back of it here. So you want to orient it this way. The way you mount the board is up to you as well. You can mount it in whatever direction you want, basically. I'm going to go this way with the power behind, I guess. So with the board facing forward, you got your motor 1 here and motor 2 here, because after it's going to be covered you won't be able to see the motors. So front facing 1, 2. The next will be these absorbers. I'm not going to record me doing this because I hate these guys, so I'll just quickly throw these guys on and jump back in. Alright, so I got the shock absorbers on the top. The next thing I'll actually want to do now is screw into here, this guy here. So I'm just going to leave the top off for now. And that's why I suggest like doing it different ways might actually be easier. But this works this way. Because now we're going to have to fight with the absorbers after this is put together like this. So that might be a pain in the butt. Alright, the next thing you'll want to attach is the gyro. Some people say to coil up this wire and stuff like that. For now I'm just going to leave all the wires just all over the place. Alright, so the compass, or not the compass, the gyro. This has to be put on very secure. The direction I'll put this guy on is this direction. In theory, you could put it this way, this way, this way, and you don't really even have to touch the software. You can actually just move the motor wires around at different locations to actually get it to work. But if you do it exactly the same way as me, it should be a little bit less problems for you. So you can either hot glue this on or find some sticky tape or something and stick it on there. But if you're going to use hot glue, you just got to be careful after when you're going to rip it off. Yeah, you don't break it. And I would even go as far as to, after you have it working properly, I would even cover the whole thing with hot glue. Alright. And you also need a camera on it to test it. Here's a really humongous tip. Make sure your camera is level on the gimbal. If you have your camera on and it goes in this direction or like this, you'll be fighting with this guy forever, not understanding why it's not working properly. You might actually think something's wrong with your gimbal, so you have to balance the camera on the gimbal. So once the camera's on, it should be able to just stay upright on its own. That's one of the most important things I think people kind of leave out. So put your strap on. That's what she said. So if you end up putting a camera on that's just too light for it, you might actually, one of the problems might actually be you might have to put some weight on it. Usually by design for the GoPros and these little cameras, it's usually level if it's right against there like that. So we'll see. So now if you just hold this up like this, the camera should stay upright. And it should stay like that. It shouldn't be falling forward or backwards either after you place it. So now we can test it by plugging it in. Right away, oh, can't plug it in yet. So the motors. So this is motor 1 here, and then this would be your motor 2. If you wire it the same way as me, you can put this in motor 1 with the black facing up. And this guy over here in motor 2. Again, you're going to want to get creative with your wires, just making sure they're out of the way. Make sure if it goes around a circle it doesn't bind up on something. And then for sure this wire here you're going to want to do something with it because it's a mess. But anyways, so you can put this down, plug it in, see if it works. It's on, so now I should be able to turn it all around different ways. So if you happen to go like this and the camera keeps shooting up to the right, it just means it's off balance usually, and you're gonna have to fix it. So that's that. So the next thing I'll jump into now is I'll show you how to attach it to your CX20, I guess, and how to connect to the software with the USB to change some of the settings. Alright, I got the CX20 open. Welcome to the mess. I just removed my other RX. I just want to show you guys this quickly. For the gimbal, if you're going to be using your variable switches on your CX20 remote, I would suggest just removing the red wire out of the -3. So this guy here, just use a pin or something and take the red guy out. And if he doesn't want to come out, try again. That's right. The reason why I suggest removing this is because it does send the 5 volts to your gimbal, and honestly I never really looked at the schematic of this board, so I don't know if it can handle an extra 5 volts. I'm not sure if there's a diode there to protect it, especially because if you have 12 volts plus the 5 volts from your APM from their RX plus the USB all at the same time, if somebody tried that by accident or something, I have no idea what would happen. Just trying to find a lighter. Oh, well. Okay. Alright, so just make sure your two gimbal wires is in the -1 and -2, I mean the -2 and the -3 after I find that one again. So that's the prep work I would suggest doing inside the CX20. Try leaving this mess here like this. Alright, I'll flip it upside down. Alright, so the gimbal wires, the white at the top for your SW1, or I mean S1. Those two wires there. And then your 12 volts. In reality, you don't really need to put the ground on because we're using the ground off here anyways, so that should be fine. You should only need the one wire, but I'll plug in both of them anyways. So anyways, that's where it goes for that, for the gimbal 12 volts. So I'm going to flip this guy around here. Show the gimbal in front here, this big mess of wires. So I got the two wires soldered on here now, and then these two guys would plug into the bottom of the CX20. Alright, so I got my wire plugged in for my gimbal for my 12 volts. I suggest too that maybe even if you're just going to use just the one red wire, maybe find a jumper or something and block the two ground pins. This way you can never accidentally plug it in there. And these two guys here for your gimbals. So with the board facing this way, with your two motors on the bottom, the first one and the second one with the white at the top. So now if you plug in your APM or the CX20, it should come to life. So then if you turn on your remote, so now I can control the camera with my variable switches on the CX20 remote. You're going to want to go into the software and set limits, because for example if you go too far this way it's going to go crazy and keep knocking, so you have to set the settings in the software for the limits. Alright, so now I'll get into some of the software.
Alright, welcome to the software side of this. Most likely, if you have exactly the same board, you'll have to get the version 2.2 B2 and download this GUI. If you already have the CX20 or whatever, you should already have the drivers, so it should get detected. I'll leave a link in my description where to get the drivers for it anyways. You can try the very top one, but most likely it won't work because you have a clone. I'm going to make a separate video after how to update it, because I managed to update mine to this version, and I also made a complete clone of the chip just in case somebody ends up bricking it, and I'll be able to help them later in life, or even myself. Okay, so download the version 2.2, save it somewhere, and then open it up. So I'm going to be running this guy. Alright, before you start the GUI, plug in your gimbal USB cable. And then connect to it. I think the differences between my version and the other version is I have motor off and I also have the voltages here. So we're sticking with profile 1. So under basic, I'm just going to show you the settings here. This is how I have it set up. If you have a heavier camera, you want to increase the power, or if you have a lighter one, you want to decrease it. The pitch shouldn't be too much of an issue usually. It should be able to handle the back and forth even at 50. but you just play around with it. It's not like a one all setting here. My sensor is minus Z and X. To calibrate the accelerometer is just place your camera balanced somewhere so it's not flopping over. Just make sure it's really still. And then you'll want to push the calibrate button once. And after it's done, push the right button. Well, after this comes back, then push the right button. You could try the same thing for the gyro. Sometimes after you push it, it might lock up your system, so you might have to try it again. Under advanced, I didn't touch anything, I don't believe. Under RC settings, the roll and pitch should be the defaulted already, but if not, you can change it here if you're going to use your variable switches. This you'll also want to play with your angles and stuff, like I said earlier too, so when you move the camera, it doesn't hit against the frame. Under services, this is that little white button on top of your gimbal. You can set that white button to do different things. So say if you have a heavier camera and a lighter camera and you're out on a field and you have no computer, you can actually do all the settings on profile 1 and then you write it. And then you can go to profile 2. You can make different settings for a different camera. So when you're out on a field, you can say change it for 3 clicks. So if you push the button 1, 2, 3 times and you change it to use profile 2, you can change it right on the fly. So it's really handy if you have 2 different cameras. The tilt angle by hand, that's so you can actually turn the camera pointing downwards or whatever direction you want. And then you push the white button twice. And as soon as you plug in the gimbal again, it's always going to remember that spot and go exactly to that spot you set it on. I believe that's about it I want to show you guys in this. The follow me mode, I did nothing. Here you can just snoop the data. This is handy for when you're doing the PIDs and stuff. Your lines should be nice and flat. They shouldn't be like that. If it's all over and the motor's shaking, there's something drastically wrong and you're gonna have to play around with it until you figure it out. I'm gonna add a link, or you guys can ask me for the link or whatever, for this guy that made a YouTube video about 45 minutes long explaining the PID controller. It's extremely handy to learn this. It's actually kind of a neat video. It's long, but so are mine. And that's about it, guys. Hopefully this video was helpful. If anybody ends up bricking their APM or whatever by going to the firmware upgrade, and 2 things or 3 things might happen. A, it actually might work. 2, it might brick it. And 3, nothing will happen. Just, I would suggest if you actually are going to get curious and just to try to push this flash button there, to go here and download where it says for non-genuine boards or whatever. You want to make sure you get that one. So the one that says for clones. Just make sure you try this one out. That's the one I have loaded on my board. But anyways, that's it, guys. Thanks for watching. Hopefully this video was helpful. If you run into problems, hit me up on YouTube in the comment section. And that's it.